What's indeed going on, Jerome's beautiful Wednesday? Birds are chirping and stuff, and it's time for another Vikings news dump. So, 'tis the season, and the Vikings on Tuesdays, which I don't know, like some players go do Toys for Tots, some visit hospitals, some just have the day off. He's coming back to US Bank Stadium. But Alec Osmus of KCP. Lots of Lego on this day off for Vikings linebacker Blake Cashman outside. How about that? Blake was part of Toys for Tots event in Eden Prairie this morning, his hometown. That was the cherry on top. And absolutely love seeing this. Vikings very visible in the community, and that's been something that's been at the forefront of the Vikings community outreach. And I feel like that not only is it a high character team, but they're definitely ingrained in the community, and this team just loves giving back, and that does build up a ton of goodwill. Plus, it's the right thing to do, especially this time of year. So, yeah, also, isn't Cashman such a great story, man? Eden Prairie, walk-on for the Gophers, became a captain, fifth-round pick by the Jets. I forgot, another chapter in the dumbest rivalry in sports history, Blake Cashman from the Jets. And then he went to the Texans, but and it's just really good, man. Also good. And speaking of fundraising, annual holiday fundraising season is on. So every dollar donated to the show in December will go to Salvation Army Twin Cities as well as Toys for Tots. All the super chats when we do live streams like the halftime post-game shows, Venmos, Cash Apps will be donated to Salvation Army Toys for Tots. Also direct donation links. Let's try again. Direct donation links in the description. So thank you very much for doing that. You guys are fantastic. I think this is year 3. Yeah, this is really good. Really good to get back this time of year, and you're the best. Love the drums. Also love this too. Doogie. Love seeing Vikings offensive lineman Ed Ingram giving back. Children's Minnesota patients living with sickle cell disease got a special visit from Ingram today. Ingram, who recently learned he is a carrier of the sickle cell gene, donated $5,000 to the sickle cell program. And think of whatever you will about Ed Ingram on the field. Hopefully it does work out, but this is really cool, man. Plus, these kids who diagnosed with sickle cell, they see Ed Ingram where he's a professional athlete and he's still overcoming, and that's got to be inspiring to them as well. Plus, he's a player on their favorite team. It's kind of awesome, man. So love to see the Vikings out in the community and just getting out there. Also, I have no transition. All right, so. You almost forgot about Addison's legal issues, but Kevin Seifert, ESPN, who's not Kirk Cousins. Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison pleaded not guilty today on 2 misdemeanor DUI charges stemming from a July arrest near LAX, according to Superior Court of California online records. He now has a pretrial conference hearing scheduled for January 9th, 2025. Now, allegedly, passed out behind the wheel and on an off-ramp. And with Addison, there wasn't going to be any resolution this season, right? Yeah, absent him pleading guilty, and then they would have given him the suspension. But there is a mandatory 3-game suspension for any alcohol-related vehicular incident, and even if it goes to a no contest or a diversionary program, he will be suspended, likely next season. So this is something that I'm sure will be adjudicated during the off season, and Addison will be facing a 3-game suspension in 2025. But hopefully he learns from this, and it does seem like viscerally he has matured as a player on the field and potentially off the field as well, and hopefully he does get things together because he seems like a good kid, and on the field obviously he's very talented, but football is a very short period of time. It's about the rest of your life, and you're just walking the line. Yeah, something you got to do, man. So hopefully Addison learns from this, and hopefully there are no future incidents after this gets taken care of. Next, so the Vikings, let's see here, roster moves. Which one do we want? Do we not have the correct? Anyways, the Vikings opened the 21-day practice window for Will Rackard as well as Andrew DePaulo. So that does mean that it could be time for John Parker Romo and Jake McQuaid. Their time in purple potentially could be up. The Vikings made a couple of roster moves. The Vikings waived long snapper Jake McQuaid and released running back Myles Gaskin from the practice squad. So Gaskin has literally been the human transaction. He's been up to the roster, practice squad, cut, waived, and he'll be back. That's the thing, too. It really is a numbers game. And it's kind of funny because every single team has a player like this where they're just moved around to make space on the roster, and then they're always brought back because they like them in the fold. It's kind of funny, but McQuaid won't be back on the practice squad because he's exhausted his 3 practice squad elevations. So it is a very good sign that Andrew DePaulo should be good to go on Sunday. And then TBD what happens with Will Rockard as well as John Parker Roma, Vikings special teams coordinator. Matt Daniels, Coach Hatt, did say that Reichard and DePaulo did have a good workout on Tuesday, so TBD there. But big time respect to Jake McQuaid, man. The veteran, a former 2-time Pro Bowler, came in and long snapped extremely well over those last 4 weeks. And it sucks losing an All-Pro like DePaulo, but McQuaid definitely took the sting out of that. So major respect to the 4-7. Also, speaking of major respect, so yeah, respect to Kirk Cousins, and we had some good moments. It was real, it was fun. It wasn't real fun, but we rekindle things as Kirk returns to U.S. Bank Stadium on Sunday. Of course, Kevin McConnell, who's gotten the best out of Kirk Cousins' career twice, both in Washington as well as with the Minnesota Vikings, talked about facing Kirk. A Vikes fan page, quote, Kirk, he's going to throw a ton of completions, but he's going to be really accurate. He's going to be really accurate. He's going to run the show. He's going to try to stack as many of those plays against Brian Flores and our defense, knowing that at any point in time, our defense has the ability to strike. And also, to make this go deeper, so the Falcons OC is Zach Robinson, who was on staff with the Rams for a couple of seasons when O'Connell was OC. So everything goes deep. So not only is Kirk Cousins in a flavor of offense very, very similar to when he was here with the Vikings, but I mean, Kurt is still Kurt, all right? But he is 36, coming off that Achilles, and he wants to throw over the middle of the field. But Cashman outside, how about that? We'll be right there. Maybe some Harrison Smith action, maybe some Metellus, it'd be good. Speaking of Kurt, so lots of people pointing this out. Kurt's Twitter header is still him of the Vikings. Now, I'm sure that this is just an oversight from his social media team, and yeah, who thinks about what their header is? But it's still really funny, man. All right, because it's a conspiracy, man. Like, how hard is it to get a photo of him in a Falcons uniform, man? So you know that his heart is still in Minnesota, but probably not. Did you know that his wife's from Georgia? Yeah. Also, you want to have a good time, look up Kirk Cousins discussions amongst Falcons fans on social media. Like, they're just done. Like, they're just, give us Penix, we'll eat the salary, just make it go away, make the bad man stop, even though he has a no trade clause. Genius move there by the Falcons. The opposite of a genius is the Pro Football Hall of Fame keeping out Jim Marshall and Chuck Foreman yet again on the veteran vote, but you know, kind of sucks. But hopefully Sterling Sharp gets in there. I mean, he would have made it on earlier if he didn't have that neck injury, which sucks. But I mean, Marshall and Chuck Foreman, like they're 2 OG Vikings, long before my time. But just the reverence that some of the old heads talk about them, it's fantastic. Also, we need to bring back the center bar, especially for running backs. Look at Chuck Foreman in those old school uniforms and the gray face mask and the center bar for the tailback / fullback. I love it. We need to bring those back. Also, those thigh pads weighed like 5 pounds a piece. Like, this ain't no space age polymers nowadays where you have like your name and your nickname stamped on them. No, like those are actual thigh pads, man. The ones that actually had the metal in them. Come on. But Jim Marshall, Mr. the Iron Man, and the team captain for many years, Bud Grant's favorite player, 3-time All-Pro, 270 consecutive starts, number 1 for a defensive player, as well as 130 and half career sacks, tied for 22nd all time, and it's long overdue. And it sucks is because he'll eventually get in, but knocking down all the wood hopefully isn't for a long time. But I mean, it'll probably be posthumously, and that's what's really short-sighted about some of these voting. Because Marshall should be in, and they'll just put him in after it's too late. And with Chuck Foreman, so Chuck Foreman's interesting. So he's a 4-time All-Pro, 5,950 career rushing yards, which isn't overwhelming, but he was ahead of his time as a receiving back. 76 total touchdowns from scrimmage, and also he led the NFL in receptions in 1975 with 73. Led the league, not just running backs, led the entire freaking league in catches. Like I said, like he was the true 3-down back, the true threat as a runner and a receiver before it was in vogue. It's really awesome. Love me the spin doctor. That's just a U being the U. That's right. Jim Marshall's a Buckeye, but yeah, won't hold that against him. Speaking of holding against him, so We talked about this yesterday when we were rounding out the power rankings, but Florio is just like off the. So he put the Vikings at 5. He actually had them up a spot. But he said this: at some point, their luck is going to run out, which is just such a Debbie Downer, passive aggressive take. It's just like, oh, at some point their luck is going to run out. It's like they're playing better teams and they're barely winning. How come they're not scoring 52 points? Okay. At a certain point, it's not an accident that this team keeps racking up and stacking up wins. And are they close? Sure. Do they find a way to get things done? Absolutely. Because guess what? There's no easy games in the National Football League. Any team can beat any other team on a given day, and it's all right. It's okay. And, you know, I understand, like, people are like, well, why are you still complaining about Florio? Well, first off, he's a Vikings fan, which that's fine. That's his prerogative. He wants to be negative Nelly because he's been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and also the thermos throughout all those years of the Super Bowl losses. Sorry I wasn't born back in the day. When John Madden and the Raiders beat the Vikings in their final Super Bowl. Sorry, but it's all right. But as a national media spokesperson and outlet, again, a lot of people still get their cues from the national media jabroni haircuts. Don't know why, but it happens. So every single time that Flores is the bitter Vikings fan who shats on the Vikings, that's what the impression is. Like, oh, I mean, the national people hate the Vikings, so the Vikings must be terrible. The Vikings are the most slept-on 10-2 team in NFL history, straight up. Also, slinging Sammy Darnold is just doing things, man. All right, so the comparison between him and Mahomes. Now, Mahomes statistically is having an off year, but also, I mean, when you need a clutch drive, I mean, it feels like Mahomes is going to get it done. But just the black and white stats, you know, obviously QB wins 11-10. Sure. But completion percentage is close. Passing yardage is pretty damn close. Passing yards per attempt, 8.2 to Mahomes, only 7. Darnold is slinging it. I wish that ADOT was on here because that's going to be a lot deeper as well. Passing yards per game, slightly to Mahomes, but touchdowns, Darnold, 23-19. Interceptions, 1 less than Mahomes, as well as quarterback rating. This is huge. Darnold, 102.5, and then you got Mahomes at 92.2, the lowest of his career as a full-time starter, which is just really interesting, right? And it does go into like momentum because Mahomes, there's been some games that he's been straight up bad, right? And you can blame all the weapons, you can do all that stuff, but there's just been games where Mahomes has straight up not been the dominant Mahomes that we've seen. And Darnold, you know, people still see him as a quarterback bust, but there's been some legitimate games where he's looked all pro caliber, notably the last couple games where he's led comeback drives and game-winning drives, right? So just interesting to note. Also noting, so The Athletic put this graphic out, 2024 Coach of the Year odds. So Dan Campbell, the prohibitive favorite right now at plus 110. Tomlin plus 450. Same thing with KOC. Yeah, you know me. Harbaugh 600. Stupid ass Sean Payton 650. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, what about McDermott? What about LaFleur? What about this? First off, Dan Campbell shouldn't be on this list. And I know you're saying, like, well, he is the media darling. He's probably going to win. He probably will win. But guess what? This doesn't fit the parameters of what Coach of the Year generally has been. It is not voting on who is the best coach. It just isn't. Otherwise, Belichick and Andy Reid and Tomlin would win every third year, right? But what it is which coach does the most with the lowest expectations coming in, right? Who does the most with the least, essentially. And Dan Campbell, like, everyone expected the Lions to be good. Everyone expected the Lions to win the Super Bowl. He's just doing what everyone expected him to do, right? So that doesn't count. Tomlin, maybe people are sleeping on the Steelers. Harbaugh, I mean, he's fine. Stupid Sean Payton, like, maybe he could have a case, except he's stupid. But O'Connell and the Vikings, they literally moved on from Kirk Cousins and Daniil Hunter. The media said that was a death sentence, that the Vikings will finish 4-13. J.J. McCarthy gets injured, a first-round quarterback. Kyrie Jackson, rest in power, passes away. Like, no other coaches had to deal with what O'Connell's had to deal with. All of the injuries. And also, hey, I was told that slinging Sam Darnold was a draft bust. So the fact that O'Connell has the Vikings in the mix at 10-2, double-digit wins, surpassing the 6.5 total very early on in the season. All of a sudden, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, it honestly should be a runaway train for Kevin O'Connell, but that's okay. I'll take the odds, right? Because I feel like at the end of the day, once the national media stops glazing the Lions and Dan Campbell, they'll realize that Kevin O'Connell is coach of the year. Absolutely should be. Lastly, so I love that I cheer for the team that has the best mascot in the National Football League. So M Football, one of those aggregator accounts put out there. Name a forgotten NFL quarterback. I'll start. Davis Webb, Zippity Doodah, Victor the Viking, Aaron Rodgers. I love it, man. I love Victor the Viking. It's fantastic. But that's it. Wednesday, Vikings news dump. You guys are wonderful. You guys are the best. Couldn't do the show without you. And you know what to do. Toss something in the Venmo, blah, blah, blah. Skull, production value.